The Nevada sun beat down mercilessly on Nellis Air Force Base as Staff Sergeant Maya Rodriguez wiped grease from her hands with a rag that had seen better days. At 26, she possessed an unusual combination of mechanical intuition and aeronautical knowledge that had made her the most sought-after aircraft technician on the entire base. Her coveralls bore the patches of advanced certifications most ground crew members never bothered to pursue, and her toolkit contained specialized instruments that she had purchased with her own money to handle the most complex repair jobs. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. What the pilots walking past her didn't know was that Maya held a commercial pilot's license with instrument ratings for multiple aircraft types. She had accumulated over 800 hours of flight time during weekends and leave periods, paying for lessons and aircraft rental with money she earned from overtime shifts in the hangar. Her flight training had been self-funded and conducted entirely off-base, away from the scrutiny of commanding officers who might have questioned why a ground crew member was pursuing pilot certifications. Maya's understanding of aircraft systems went far beyond the typical mechanical knowledge expected of maintenance personnel. She had completed advanced courses in avionics, hydraulics, and engine performance through correspondence programs with civilian aviation schools. Her apartment was filled with technical manuals, flight training materials, and engineering textbooks that she studied religiously during her off-duty hours. She could diagnose engine problems by listening to subtle changes in sound patterns that escaped the attention of less experienced technicians. The F-15 Eagle she was currently inspecting represented the pinnacle of American fighter technology, and Maya knew every bolt, wire, and system component better than most of the pilots who flew it. She had memorized the aircraft's performance specifications, understood its limitations, and could troubleshoot problems that stumped mechanics with twice her experience. Her maintenance logs were works of art, documenting every repair with precision. That exceeded military requirements, but to the pilots of the 422nd Fighter Squadron, Maya was simply Rodriguez from the motor pool, a competent enough wrench-turner who kept their jets operational, but certainly not someone whose opinions about aviation mattered. They saw her coveralls and assumed limitations. They noticed her gender and made assumptions about her capabilities. They observed her quiet demeanor during briefings and interpreted it as lack of understanding rather than careful attention to detail. Captain Jake Morrison was the squadron's golden boy, a Harvard graduate who had earned his wings through the Air Force Academy and carried himself with the confidence of someone who had never doubted his place in the world. His father had been a fighter pilot, his grandfather had flown bombers in World War II, and Jake viewed aviation as his birthright, rather than his profession. He treated ground crew with polite condescension, acknowledging their importance while making it clear they existed in a different universe from the elite world of fighter pilots. Morrison's aircraft, tail number 840045, had been experiencing intermittent electrical problems for the past 2 weeks. The issues were subtle, brief power fluctuations during high-G maneuvers, occasional navigation display glitches, and communication static that appeared and disappeared without apparent cause. 3 different maintenance teams had examined the aircraft, running diagnostic tests and replacing components, but the problems persisted. The electrical gremlins were sophisticated enough to evade standard troubleshooting procedures. Maya had been observing the repair attempts with growing frustration. She had identified a pattern in the electrical failures that suggested a grounding issue in the aircraft's main power distribution system. The problem wasn't with individual components, but with the installation of a recent avionics upgrade that had created an intermittent short circuit. Her analysis pointed to a specific wiring harness that had been improperly secured during the modification, allowing vibration to create occasional contact with the aircraft's frame. The solution was elegant and relatively simple: rerouting. 3 wires and adding proper insulation at a critical junction point. Maya had drafted a detailed repair plan with diagrams and part specifications, but protocol required that her recommendations be reviewed and approved by senior maintenance personnel before implementation. Tech Sergeant Williams, the maintenance supervisor, had glanced at her proposal and dismissed it without serious consideration. Rodriguez stick to routine maintenance and let the specialists handle the complex electrical work, Williams had sighed, filing her report without reading the technical details. These F-15s have systems that require specialized training to understand. What Williams didn't know was that Maya had spent 6 months working for a civilian avionics company during a previous assignment, gaining hands-on experience with the exact electrical systems installed in Morrison's aircraft. She understood the wiring schematics better than the contractor technicians who had performed the original installation. Her repair plan would solve the electrical problems permanently, while the current approach of replacing random components was essentially performing expensive guesswork. Major Lisa Chun, the squadron's operations officer, represented a different type of obstacle for Maya. Chun had risen through the ranks as a pilot and genuinely believed in merit-based advancement, but her concept of merit was defined by traditional career progression through flying assignments. She viewed ground crew positions as stepping stones that ambitious personnel should seek to leave behind rather than areas of expertise worth developing. Chun's interactions with Maya were professional but distant, reflecting an assumption that anyone with real aviation potential would be pursuing pilot training rather than remaining in maintenance roles. The irony was that Maya's maintenance experience had given her insights into aircraft performance and reliability that exceeded what most pilots learned through flight training alone. She understood how mechanical stress affected system performance, how environmental conditions influenced component reliability, and how subtle changes in engine behavior indicated developing problems. Her perspective combined the theoretical knowledge of formal aviation education with the practical wisdom that came from hands-on experience with aircraft systems. Lieutenant Colonel David Harper commanded the 422nd Fighter Squadron with the bearing of someone who had earned his authority through combat experience and demonstrated leadership. Harper had flown missions in 3 different conflicts and understood that effective military operations depended on teamwork between all personnel, regardless of rank or specialty. However, his concept of teamwork was hierarchical, with clear distinctions between those who made decisions and those who implemented them. Ground crew provided essential support, but they didn't participate in tactical planning or operational decision-making. Harper's management style was fair but traditional. He valued competence and hard work from all personnel, but he also believed that everyone should focus on their assigned roles rather than seeking responsibilities outside their area of expertise. Maya's obvious intelligence and technical knowledge had earned his respect within the context of maintenance operations, but he had never considered that her capabilities might extend beyond keeping aircraft operational. The possibility that a ground crew member might possess pilot-level knowledge simply didn't fit into his organizational framework. The morning briefing room at Nellis buzzed with the controlled energy of pilots preparing for training exercises. Maya sat in the back row, nominally present to provide technical support, but effectively invisible to the officers discussing flight plans and mission objectives. The pilots wore flight suits with patches indicating their qualifications and achievements, while Maya's coveralls marked her as support personnel, whose opinions weren't solicited during operational planning. Captain Morrison stood at the front of the room, describing the electrical problems that had been plaguing his aircraft for the past 2 weeks. His frustration was evident as he detailed the various repair attempts and their failure to resolve the intermittent issues. The squadron's flight schedule was being disrupted by an aircraft that was technically airworthy but unreliable enough to create safety concerns during complex training exercises. "The electrical problems are getting worse," Morrison explained to the assembled pilots. Yesterday, I lost my navigation display for 30 seconds during a tactical turn. The communication system cuts out randomly, and I'm getting power fluctuations that affect my instrument readings. Maintenance has replaced half the avionics suite, but the gremlins keep coming back. Maya listened to Morrison's description with the knowledge that she could solve his problems in 4 hours with parts that cost less than $50. Her repair plan lay unused in Williams's filing cabinet while Morrison's aircraft continued to malfunction, and expensive components were replaced unnecessarily. The waste of resources bothered her, but the safety implications were more serious. Electrical failures that seemed minor on the ground could become critical emergencies at 30,000 feet traveling at max speeds. The briefing concluded with Morrison's aircraft being temporarily grounded, pending further electrical system analysis. The decision would delay training exercises and force other pilots to modify their schedules to accommodate the aircraft shortage. Maya gathered her technical manuals and prepared to return to the hangar, knowing that she possessed the knowledge to restore Morrison's aircraft to full operational status, but lacking the authority to implement her solution. As she walked across the tarmac toward the maintenance facility, Maya made a decision that would soon change everything at Nellis Air Force Base. She was done watching resources be wasted and safety compromised, because traditional hierarchies prevented the best technical solutions from being implemented. Morrison's electrical problems were about to become the catalyst for a demonstration that would force everyone to reconsider their assumptions about capability, authority, and what it really meant to serve effectively in modern military aviation. Maya's decision to circumvent the normal approval process began at 05:00 hours the following morning, 2 hours before the regular maintenance shift started. The hangar was empty except for the security guard making his rounds, and Morrison's F-15 sat in Bay 7 like a sleeping giant waiting for someone to unlock its potential. Maya had spent the previous evening reviewing technical specifications and preparing the exact tools she would need to implement her repair plan without leaving any trace of unauthorized modifications. The beauty of Maya's approach was its simplicity. Rather than replacing expensive components, she would address the root cause by rerouting the problematic wiring harness and adding proper insulation at 3 critical junction points. The repair would take 4 hours to complete and cost less than the diagnostic tests that had been performed repeatedly over the past 2 weeks. More importantly, it would permanently solve the electrical problems that were compromising flight safety and operational readiness. Maya began by photographing every connection she planned to modify, creating documentation that would allow her to reverse the changes if her unauthorized repair was discovered before she could demonstrate its effectiveness. She worked with the methodical precision of someone who understood that a single mistake could result in catastrophic failure at 30,000 feet. Every wire was tested before disconnection. Every connection was verified before modification, and every component was inspected for potential interference with other systems. The first obstacle appeared at 06:30 hours, when Tech Sergeant Williams arrived early to prepare for the day's maintenance schedule. Williams discovered Maya working on Morrison's aircraft and immediately assumed she was conducting routine inspection procedures rather than implementing unauthorized modifications to the electrical system. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Rodriguez, what are you doing with that aircraft? Williams demanded, his tone carrying the authority of someone who controlled work assignments and performance evaluations. That F-15 is grounded pending specialist analysis. Nobody works on those electrical systems without my direct authorization. Maya looked up from the wiring panel she had been carefully reorganizing, her hands steady despite the adrenaline surge that accompanied being caught in unauthorized territory. Sergeant Williams, I'm implementing the repair plan I submitted last week. The electrical problems can be resolved by addressing the grounding issues in the main power distribution system. Williams's face flushed red as he processed what Maya was telling him. She hadn't just ignored his dismissal of her repair proposal. She had actively defied his authority by proceeding with modifications that could void the aircraft's maintenance certification. In Williams's view, Maya had crossed the line from insubordination to potential sabotage of military equipment. "Rodriguez, step away from that aircraft immediately," Williams ordered, his voice rising to attract the attention of other maintenance personnel who were beginning to arrive for the morning shift. "You have no authorization to modify electrical systems, and your actions constitute a direct violation of maintenance protocols." The confrontation drew a crowd of technicians and mechanics who understood the implications immediately. Maya had challenged the fundamental hierarchy that governed maintenance operations, where senior personnel made decisions and junior personnel followed orders without question. Her technical expertise was irrelevant if she couldn't operate within the established command structure that maintained discipline and accountability. Staff Sergeant Mike Hendricks, a 20-year veteran mechanic, shook his head in disapproval. As he observed the scene, "Rodriguez, what were you thinking? You can't just modify aircraft systems because you think you know better than the specialists. That's how people get killed." The accusation stung because Maya understood that aircraft safety was the ultimate priority that superseded all other considerations. But she also knew that her modifications would improve safety by eliminating electrical failures that could occur during critical flight operations. The current approach of replacing random components was actually more dangerous because it left the root cause unaddressed while creating opportunities for new problems to develop. Airman First Class Jennifer Walsh, one of the newer maintenance personnel, watched the confrontation with obvious discomfort. Walsh had observed Maya's work over the past 6 months and recognized her superior technical knowledge, but she also understood that supporting Maya's unauthorized actions could jeopardize her own career prospects. The military operated on chain of command principles that didn't accommodate individual initiative outside approved channels. "Sergeant Rodriguez has always been thorough in her work," Walsh offered tentatively, trying to find middle ground that acknowledged Maya's competence without endorsing her violation of protocol. "Maybe we should examine what she's done before deciding how to proceed." Williams turned his attention to Walsh with the focused intensity of someone who saw the situation expanding beyond a single disciplinary issue. "Airman Walsh Rodriguez has conducted unauthorized modifications to aircraft systems without proper approval or documentation. There's nothing to examine except the extent of the damage she may have caused." The characterization of Maya's work as damage revealed Williams's fundamental misunderstanding of what she had accomplished. The electrical modifications were elegant solutions that improved system reliability while maintaining full compatibility with existing components. Maya had enhanced the aircraft's performance through better engineering rather than causing problems through careless intervention. Major Chun arrived at the hangar 30 minutes later, summoned by Williams to address what he described as a serious breach of maintenance protocols. Chun's expression was grim as she surveyed the situation and realized that Maya's actions had created administrative complications that extended far beyond technical considerations. Unauthorized aircraft modifications required incident reports, safety investigations, and potentially disciplinary action that could affect Maya's career permanently. "Sergeant Rodriguez, explain your actions," Chun ordered, her tone carrying the weight of official inquiry rather than casual conversation. "Sergeant Williams has informed me that you've conducted unauthorized modifications to Captain Morrison's aircraft without proper approval or documentation." Maya straightened to attention, understanding that her response would determine whether her technical expertise would be evaluated fairly or dismissed entirely. "Ma'am, I implemented a repair plan that addresses the root cause of the electrical problems affecting Captain Morrison's aircraft. The modifications eliminate grounding issues in the main power distribution system that have been causing intermittent failures. Chun's expression didn't change, but Maya detected a flicker of interest in her eyes. Chun was pilot enough to understand that electrical reliability was crucial for flight safety, and she recognized that Maya's explanation demonstrated sophisticated understanding of aircraft systems. However, Chun was also an officer who understood that military effectiveness depended on personnel following established procedures rather than implementing independent solutions. "Sergeant Rodriguez, your technical knowledge is noted, but your methods are completely unacceptable," Chun replied, her voice carrying disappointment rather than anger. "Military aviation operates according to strict protocols because improvisation can result in catastrophic failures. Your modifications must be reversed immediately, and this incident will be documented in your personnel file." The decision represented everything Maya had been fighting against for 2 years at Nellis. Her technical competence was acknowledged but subordinated to procedural compliance that prioritized hierarchy over effectiveness. Chun was essentially telling Maya that being right about the technical solution was less important than being wrong through proper channels. Captain Morrison arrived at the hangar 20 minutes later, drawn by radio chatter about problems with his aircraft. Morrison's first concern was whether Maya's modifications had compromised his F-15's airworthiness, but his engineering background from Harvard allowed him to appreciate the sophistication of her repair approach when Williams explained what she had done. "Rodriguez actually rerouted the power distribution wiring?" Morrison asked, his tone reflecting genuine curiosity rather than automatic disapproval. "That's exactly the kind of systematic approach the contractor specialists should have tried weeks ago." Williams bristled at Morrison's implied criticism of the official repair efforts. "Captain Morrison, Rodriguez conducted unauthorized modifications without proper testing or documentation. Her intentions might have been good, but her methods violated every protocol we have for aircraft maintenance." Morrison examined Maya's work more carefully, noting the precision of her wire routing and the professional quality of her connections. His Harvard engineering education allowed him to recognize superior technical work when he saw it, regardless of who had performed it. Maya's modifications demonstrated understanding of electrical systems that exceeded what he would have expected from typical maintenance personnel. "This is actually impressive work," Morrison admitted, his comment creating uncomfortable silence among the assembled maintenance personnel. "The wiring organization is better than the original installation, and the insulation improvements address exactly the kind of grounding issues that cause intermittent failures." Maya felt a surge of vindication as Morrison acknowledged the quality of her technical work, but she also understood that his recognition wouldn't necessarily prevent disciplinary action for her violation of proper procedures. Military organizations could acknowledge competence while still punishing insubordination, maintaining discipline even when individual initiative produced superior results. Lieutenant Colonel Harper arrived at the hangar as word of the incident spread through squadron channels. Harper's presence elevated the situation from a maintenance dispute to a command decision that could affect squadron operations and personnel careers. His expression was neutral as he surveyed the scene and gathered information from the various personnel involved. "Major Chun, brief me on the situation," Harper ordered, his tone suggesting that he was prepared to make definitive decisions based on the facts, rather than prolonging the controversy through additional investigation. Chun provided a concise summary that emphasized Maya's violation of protocols, while acknowledging the technical sophistication of her work. Harper listened without interruption, occasionally glancing at Maya to gauge her composure under official scrutiny. His experience had taught him to evaluate personnel under pressure, and Maya's calm professionalism impressed him despite her obvious breach of proper procedures. "Sergeant Rodriguez, do you understand why your actions are problematic, regardless of their technical merit?" Harper asked, His question designed to determine whether Maya grasped the broader implications of her unauthorized modifications. Maya met Harper's gaze directly, recognizing that her response would influence not only her immediate situation, but also her future opportunities within the squadron. "Yes, sir. I understand that aircraft modifications require proper authorization and documentation to maintain safety and accountability. However, I also believe that my repair plan would improve flight safety and operational readiness." Harper nodded slowly, appreciating Maya's acknowledgement of proper procedures while noting her continued confidence in her technical solution. Her response demonstrated respect for military hierarchy while maintaining professional pride in her work quality. It was exactly the kind of balanced perspective that effective military personnel needed to develop. "The aircraft will be subjected to comprehensive electrical testing before any determination is made about reversing Sergeant Rodriguez's modifications," Harper announced, his decision surprising everyone present. "If her work proves effective and safe, we'll document it properly and incorporate her methods into our standard procedures." The decision represented a compromise that acknowledged both Maya's technical competence and the importance of proper procedures. Harper was essentially putting Maya's expertise to the test, while creating a framework for recognizing her contributions if they proved valuable. It was more consideration than Maya had expected, but it also meant that her career depended on her technical analysis being correct. As the group dispersed to resume normal operations, Maya remained in Bay 7 to complete the documentation that should have preceded her modifications. The irony wasn't lost on her that she was now creating the paperwork to justify work she had already completed successfully. Military bureaucracy required reverse engineering of authorization procedures that could have prevented her technical solution from being implemented in the first place. The electrical testing would begin the following morning, conducted by civilian contractor specialists who had no stake in the personnel conflicts surrounding Maya's unauthorized modifications. Their evaluation would be based purely on technical performance, measuring system reliability and safety without regard to the political implications of their findings. Maya's reputation and career prospects would depend on objective data rather than subjective opinions about proper procedures. That evening, Maya reviewed her technical analysis one final time, double-checking calculations and verifying that her modifications would perform as predicted under all operational conditions. Her confidence in the technical solution remained absolute, but she understood that even perfect engineering wouldn't protect her from disciplinary action if her methods were deemed unacceptable. Military service required balancing technical excellence with procedural compliance, and Maya had chosen effectiveness over authorization in a gamble that could end her career. The next 24 hours would determine whether Maya's technical expertise would be recognized and utilized, or whether her violation of proper procedures would overshadow her contributions entirely. She had demonstrated superior understanding of aircraft systems, but she had also challenged the authority structure that maintained discipline and accountability throughout military aviation. The test results would provide objective validation of her work, but the subjective interpretation of her methods would ultimately determine her future at Nellis Air Force Base. The electrical testing of Morrison's F-15 began at 06:00 hours with a team of civilian contractors who arrived with diagnostic equipment worth more than most people's houses. Maya watched from the observation area as technicians connected sophisticated testing apparatus to her modified wiring systems, knowing that the next 6 hours would either validate her engineering expertise or destroy her military career. The lead contractor, Dr. Elizabeth Barnes from Lockheed Martin, had 30 years of experience with F-15 electrical systems and a reputation for identifying problems that escaped standard diagnostic procedures. While the testing proceeded in Bay 7, Maya found herself assigned to the most menial tasks that Tech Sergeant Williams could devise. Her punishment details included cleaning tool storage areas, organizing spare parts inventories, and performing basic maintenance on ground support equipment. The assignments were designed to demonstrate her proper place in the squadron hierarchy, while keeping her away from any meaningful technical work that might further challenge established authority. Airman Walsh approached Maya during the morning break, her expression sympathetic but cautious. "Sergeant Rodriguez, I wanted you to know that some of us think what you did took real courage. The electrical problems with Captain Morrison's jet have been getting worse, and everyone knows the standard repair attempts weren't working." Maya appreciated Walsh's support, but she also understood the risks that junior personnel faced when they openly questioned senior decisions. "Airman Walsh, I appreciate your confidence, but you need to focus on following proper procedures and building your own career. Don't let my situation affect your standing with the supervisors." The advice reflected Maya's understanding that military careers were built through steady advancement within established systems rather than through individual gestures that challenged authority. Walsh had potential for professional growth, but only if she demonstrated reliability and respect for chain of command principles that governed promotion opportunities. Captain Morrison spent the morning in the squadron ready room, monitoring RADIO reports from the testing team while fielding questions from other pilots about the unprecedented situation. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Phillips, the squadron's most experienced pilot, expressed skepticism about allowing ground crew personnel to modify aircraft systems without proper oversight. "Jake, I understand you're frustrated with the electrical problems, but Rodriguez's unauthorized modifications set a dangerous precedent," Phillips argued, her concern reflecting 20 years of military aviation experience. "If we start letting maintenance personnel make independent decisions about aircraft modifications, we'll lose the systematic approach that keeps us safe." Morrison nodded, understanding Phillips's concerns while wrestling with his own recognition of Maya's technical competence. "Sarah, I agree that proper procedures are essential, but Rodriguez clearly understands these electrical systems better than the contractor specialists who've been working on my jet for 2 weeks. Her modifications demonstrate engineering knowledge that could benefit the entire squadron." The conversation highlighted the fundamental tension between innovation and discipline that characterized modern military aviation. Phillips represented traditional approaches that prioritized proven procedures over individual initiative, while Morrison was beginning to appreciate the value of technical expertise, regardless of its source. Their disagreement reflected broader cultural conflicts within military organizations. Adapting to technological change. Major Chun conducted a formal interview with Maya at 1,000 hours, documenting the incident for official records while attempting to understand the motivations behind her unauthorized actions. The interview took place in Chun's office, away from the hangar environment where other personnel might influence their conversation through their presence or reactions. "Sergeant Rodriguez, explain your decision-making process when you chose to modify Captain Morrison's aircraft without proper authorization." Chun began, her tone professional but carrying undertones of disappointment that Maya had violated established protocols. Maya straightened in her chair, understanding that her response would become part of permanent documentation that could follow her throughout her military career. "Ma'am, I identified a specific technical solution to electrical problems that were affecting flight safety and operational readiness. The standard repair approaches were addressing symptoms rather than root causes, resulting in continued system failures." Chun made notes on Maya's response while evaluating the balance between technical justification and procedural violation. "Sergeant Rodriguez, your technical analysis may be correct, but military aviation requires systematic approaches to aircraft modification. Individual initiative, regardless of its merit, undermines the collaborative processes that ensure safety and reliability." The criticism struck at the heart of Maya's frustration with military bureaucracy. Chun was essentially arguing that collective decision-making was more important than individual expertise, even when collective decisions proved ineffective. Maya understood the logic of systematic approaches, but she also recognized that systematic approaches could become obstacles to effective problem-solving when they prioritize procedure over performance. "Ma'am, I understand the importance of proper procedures, but I also believe that technical expertise should be utilized effectively when it's available," Maya replied, her tone respectful but firm. "My modifications improve aircraft reliability through better engineering rather than compromising safety through unauthorized experimentation." Chun's expression remained neutral, but Maya detected a flicker of interest in her eyes. Chun was pilot enough to appreciate technical competence when she encountered it, even if she couldn't endorse the methods Maya had used to demonstrate her capabilities. The interview continued for 30 minutes, covering Maya's background, training, and long-term career objectives. The testing results arrived at 1,300 hours, with Dr. Barnes delivering her findings to Lieutenant Colonel Harper in person rather than through written reports. Barnes's expression was serious as she entered Harper's office, carrying data printouts and diagnostic summaries that would determine Maya's fate within the squadron. "Colonel Harper, Sergeant Rodriguez's modifications are not only technically sound, they represent superior engineering solutions to complex electrical problems," Barnes announced, her professional assessment carrying the weight of 3 decades of aerospace experience. "Her work demonstrates understanding of F-15 electrical systems that exceeds what I would expect from most contractor specialists." Harper leaned forward, clearly interested in Barnes's detailed analysis. "Dr. Barnes, are you saying that Rodriguez's unauthorized modifications actually improve the aircraft's electrical reliability?" Barnes spread diagnostic printouts across Harper's desk, pointing to specific measurements that illustrated the improvements Maya's work had achieved. "Colonel, the electrical system performance is now within optimal parameters for the first time since the recent avionics upgrade. Rodriguez identified and corrected grounding issues that our standard diagnostic procedures failed to detect. The vindication was complete and unambiguous. Maya's technical analysis had been correct, her engineering solutions had been effective, and her unauthorized modifications had solved problems that expensive contractor specialists had been unable to address." Barnes's assessment eliminated any technical objections to Maya's work while highlighting the superior results she had achieved. Harper studied the diagnostic data carefully, recognizing that Maya's success created administrative challenges that extended beyond simple personnel discipline. "Dr. Barnes, what's your professional recommendation regarding Sergeant Rodriguez's modifications?" Barnes's response was immediate and emphatic. "Colonel, I recommend documenting Rodriguez's procedures as standard repair protocols for similar electrical problems. Her approach should be incorporated into official maintenance manuals and used for training other technicians." The recommendation represented complete professional validation of Maya's work, but it also created political complications for Harper. Accepting Barnes's recommendation would require acknowledging that a ground crew member had developed superior solutions to problems that had stumped official specialists. It would also mean reversing disciplinary actions against Maya while potentially questioning the competence of senior maintenance personnel. While Harper considered the implications of Barnes's findings, Maya continued her punishment in detail. In the parts storage facility, organizing inventory that had been deliberately disorganized by personnel who resented her challenge to established authority. Staff Sergeant Mike Hendricks supervised her work with obvious satisfaction, viewing her mundane assignments as appropriate consequences for her violation of proper procedures. "Rodriguez, maybe this will teach you to respect the chain of command and stop thinking you're smarter than everyone else," Hendricks commented, his tone carrying the satisfaction of someone watching authority being restored through appropriate discipline. Ground crew personnel fix what they're told to fix, nothing more. Maya continued her work without responding to Hendrix's provocation, understanding that any reaction would be interpreted as continued insubordination. She organized spare parts with the same methodical precision she brought to aircraft maintenance, demonstrating professional competence even in tasks designed to humiliate her. Her composure under pressure impressed some personnel while frustrating others, who wanted to see her authority completely broken. Airman First Class Tommy Chun, a recent arrival to the squadron, watched Maya's situation with growing confusion. About military priorities. Chun had observed Maya's technical expertise during his first weeks at Nellis and couldn't understand why someone with her knowledge was being punished for solving problems that official specialists couldn't address. Sergeant Henderson, I don't understand why Sergeant Rodriguez is in trouble for fixing Captain Morrison's jet, Chun commented to one of the senior mechanics. Isn't solving problems supposed to be what we do? Henderson's response reflected the complex relationship between competence and authority that characterized military organizations. Chun, Rodriguez might be smart, but she can't just ignore the chain of command because she thinks she knows better. Military discipline requires following orders, not making independent decisions about aircraft modifications. The explanation frustrated Chun because it prioritized compliance over effectiveness, suggesting that being wrong through proper channels was preferable to being right through unauthorized action. Chun was beginning to understand that military success required navigating political relationships as well as demonstrating technical competence. Captain Morrison received Barnes's testing results at 1400 hours, confirming what his engineering instincts had suggested about Maya's modifications. The electrical problems that had plagued his aircraft for weeks had been completely eliminated through her systematic approach to addressing root causes rather than replacing random components. Morrison's F-15 was now more reliable than it had been since the recent avionics upgrade. Morrison's reaction was immediate and decisive. He walked directly to the parts storage facility where Maya was completing her punishment detail and addressed her in front of the personnel who had been supervising her mundane assignments. Sergeant Rodriguez, I want to thank you personally for fixing my aircraft, Morrison announced, his voice carrying across the storage area and ensuring that everyone present heard his acknowledgement. Your modifications solved electrical problems that contractor specialists couldn't diagnose, and your work demonstrates technical expertise that benefits the entire squadron. The public recognition from Morrison created uncomfortable tension among the maintenance personnel who had been treating Maya's technical competence as insubordination. Hendrix's expression darkened as he realized that Morrison's endorsement complicated the narrative of Maya as a problem employee who needed disciplinary correction. Captain Morrison, Rodriguez violated proper procedures regardless of her technical results, Hendrix replied, his tone defensive but respectful toward the officer. We can't allow maintenance personnel to make unauthorized modifications just because they think they know better than official specialists. Morrison's response was measured but firm. Sergeant Hendrix, I appreciate the importance of proper procedures, but I also recognize superior technical work when I see it. Rodriguez's modifications represent exactly the kind of innovative problem-solving that modern military aviation requires. The exchange marked a turning point in Maya's situation, with Morrison's public endorsement providing protection against continued harassment while validating her technical expertise. Other pilots began to take notice of Morrison's support, creating ripple effects throughout the squadron as personnel re-evaluated their assumptions about Maya's capabilities and contributions. Lieutenant Phillips approached Maya later that afternoon, her expression thoughtful as she considered the implications of Barnes's testing results and Morrison's public endorsement. Phillips had initially opposed Maya's unauthorized modifications, but the technical validation forced her to reconsider her position. Sergeant Rodriguez, I owe you an apology, Phillips admitted, her tone reflecting genuine respect rather than grudging acknowledgement. "I was concerned about procedural violations, but your work demonstrates technical knowledge that could improve." Squadron operations. "I was wrong to dismiss your expertise based on your position rather than your performance." The apology from Phillips carried special significance because of her reputation as the squadron's most experienced and respected pilot. Her acknowledgement of Maya's technical competence provided credibility that transcended rank and position, suggesting that expertise deserved recognition regardless of its source. Maya's response was gracious but cautious. Lieutenant Phillips, "I appreciate your reconsideration. I understand concerns about proper procedures, but I also believe that technical solutions should be evaluated based on their effectiveness rather than their source." The conversation between Maya and Phillips was observed by other squadron personnel, creating additional momentum for re-evaluating Maya's role within the organization. Her technical vindication was spreading beyond the immediate incident to broader questions about how the squadron utilized available expertise and whether traditional hierarchies were optimizing operational effectiveness. As the day concluded, Maya found herself in an unprecedented position within the squadron hierarchy. Her technical competence had been officially validated, her modifications had been professionally endorsed, and her expertise was beginning to gain recognition from pilots who had previously dismissed her contributions. However, she also understood that procedural violations had consequences that extended beyond technical performance, and her future at Nellis remained uncertain despite her professional vindication. The evening would bring new developments that would test whether technical excellence could overcome institutional resistance to change, and whether Maya's expertise would be integrated into squadron operations or remain marginalized despite its proven value. Her unauthorized modifications had solved immediate problems, but they had also created broader questions about authority, competence, and the future of military aviation in an era when expertise came from unexpected sources. The tension that had been building within the 422nd Fighter Squadron reached critical mass 3 days after Dr. Barnes's vindication of Maya's electrical modifications. Tech Sergeant Williams had spent those days watching his authority erode as pilots increasingly sought Maya's technical opinions rather than following standard maintenance protocols. His response was to schedule a formal disciplinary hearing that would either restore traditional hierarchy or force him to accept a new reality where ground crew expertise challenged established command structures. Williams convened the hearing in conference Room B at 0800 hours, summoning Maya to face a panel that included Major Chun, Master Sergeant Patricia Reeves from the Base Inspector General's office, and Captain Robert Hayes from Squadron Administration. The formal setting was designed to demonstrate the seriousness of Maya's procedural violations while creating an official record that could support disciplinary action up to and including court-martial proceedings. "Sergeant Rodriguez, you are here to answer charges of conducting unauthorized modifications to military aircraft, violating established maintenance protocols, and demonstrating willful disregard for chain of command authority," Williams announced, his voice carrying the satisfaction of someone who believed he was finally restoring proper military discipline. Maya stood at attention before the panel, understanding that the hearing represented more than personal consequences for her actions. The outcome would determine whether technical expertise could challenge institutional authority within military organizations, and whether innovation would be encouraged or suppressed when it conflicted with traditional procedures. Major Chun opened the proceedings with a comprehensive review of Maya's unauthorized modifications, emphasizing the procedural violations while acknowledging the technical success of her work. "Sergeant Rodriguez, your electrical modifications to Captain Morrison's aircraft were technically sound and operationally successful. However, your methods violated multiple regulations governing aircraft maintenance and modification procedures." The characterization perfectly captured the fundamental conflict. between effectiveness and authorization that had defined Maya's situation from the beginning. Chun was acknowledging Maya's competence while condemning her methods, suggesting that being right wasn't sufficient justification for violating established procedures. Master Sergeant Reeves represented external oversight designed to ensure fair treatment while maintaining institutional standards. Her presence indicated that Maya's case had attracted attention beyond the squadron level, with base leadership recognizing the broader implications of disciplining personnel for successful problem-solving that violated proper channels. Sergeant Rodriguez, explain your understanding of why aircraft modification procedures exist and why individual initiative, regardless of its technical merit, can compromise military aviation safety, Reeves began, her question designed to determine whether Maya understood the systemic importance of collective decision-making. Maya's response revealed months of frustration with bureaucratic obstacles that prevented effective problem-solving. Master Sergeant Reeves, I understand that modification procedures exist to ensure safety and accountability. However, I also believe that technical expertise should be utilized effectively when standard procedures prove inadequate. My modifications addressed safety concerns that were being ignored through official channels. The answer demonstrated Maya's sophisticated understanding of competing priorities, while revealing her willingness to prioritize technical effectiveness over procedural compliance. Her response suggested that she viewed her unauthorized actions as necessary interventions rather than simple violations of military discipline. Captain Hayes documented Maya's statements while evaluating their implications for squadron morale and operational effectiveness. Hayes understood that disciplinary decisions created precedents that influenced how other personnel approached similar situations in the future. Punishing Maya severely might discourage innovation, while failing to address her procedural violations could undermine command authority. Williams presented his case against Maya with methodical precision, detailing each regulation she had violated, while emphasizing the potential consequences of allowing maintenance personnel to make independent modification decisions. His argument focused on systemic risks rather than individual competence, suggesting that Maya's technical success was irrelevant to the broader question of military discipline. Sergeant Rodriguez's unauthorized modifications, regardless of their technical merit, represent a fundamental challenge to the command structure that maintains safety and accountability in military aviation, Williams argued. His presentation designed to frame Maya's actions as institutional threats rather than individual initiative. The characterization revealed Williams's genuine concern about maintaining organizational discipline, but it also demonstrated his inability to adapt traditional approaches to incorporate superior technical solutions when they originated from unexpected sources. His perspective prioritized consistency over innovation, even when innovation produced better results. Maya's defense was presented by Lieutenant Colonel Harper, whose presence at the hearing surprised everyone involved. Harper had requested permission to speak on Maya's behalf, arguing that squadron commanders had responsibility to evaluate the broader implications of disciplinary decisions rather than simply enforcing procedural compliance. This hearing is considering punishing Sergeant Rodriguez for solving problems that our standard procedures failed to address. Harper began, his statement immediately shifting the focus from Maya's violations to the effectiveness of existing systems. Her technical expertise represents exactly the kind of innovative thinking that modern military aviation requires. Harper's intervention transformed the hearing from a simple disciplinary proceeding into a broader examination of how military organizations balanced innovation with institutional requirements. His support for Maya carried command authority that complicated Williams's attempt to frame her actions as clear violations, deserving punishment. The testimony phase of the hearing included statements from Captain Morrison, who provided detailed technical analysis of Maya's modifications and their Impact on aircraft performance. Morrison's engineering background allowed him to explain the sophistication of Maya's work in terms that demonstrated her superior understanding of electrical systems. Sergeant Rodriguez identified and corrected fundamental design flaws in the recent avionics installation that contractor specialists had been unable to diagnose. Morrison testified, his statement providing technical credibility to Maya's unauthorized actions. Her modifications represent superior engineering solutions that should be incorporated into standard maintenance procedures. Dr. Barnes appeared as an expert witness via video conference, providing professional assessment of Maya's work that eliminated any question about its technical merit. Barnes's testimony was devastating to Williams's case because it demonstrated that Maya's expertise exceeded that of officially designated specialists. Sergeant Rodriguez's modifications demonstrate mastery of 15 electrical systems that I would expect from senior aerospace engineers with decades of experience. Barnes testified, her professional reputation lending authority to her assessment. Her work should be studied and emulated, not punished. The expert testimony created an uncomfortable reality for the hearing panel. Maya had not only violated procedures, she had done so while demonstrating technical competence that exceeded official standards. Punishing her would send a clear message that institutional compliance was more important than operational excellence. Williams's cross-examination of the witnesses revealed his growing desperation as technical evidence undermined his procedural arguments. Dr. Barnes, regardless of Sergeant Rodriguez's technical competence, don't you agree that unauthorized aircraft modifications represent unacceptable safety risks? Barnes's response was immediate and emphatic. Sergeant Williams, unauthorized modifications represent safety risks only when they're performed by unqualified personnel or implemented incorrectly. Rodriguez's work demonstrates superior qualifications and flawless implementation. The exchange highlighted the fundamental weakness in Williams's position. He was arguing against technical excellence based purely on procedural grounds, suggesting that proper authorization was more important than superior results. His argument became increasingly difficult to sustain, as evidence mounted that Maya's violations had produced better outcomes than official procedures. The hearing's most dramatic moment came when Airman Walsh requested permission to testify on Maya's behalf. Walsh's statement was brief but powerful, describing how Maya's technical guidance had helped her develop superior maintenance skills and understand aircraft systems more thoroughly. Sergeant Rodriguez has taught me more about aircraft systems in 6 months than I learned in 2 years of formal training. Walsh testified, her statement demonstrating Maya's value as an informal mentor and technical resource. She shares knowledge freely and helps everyone perform better work. The testimony revealed Maya's positive influence on squadron technical competence, suggesting that her expertise benefited the entire organization rather than simply advancing her individual career. Walsh's statement demonstrated that Maya's value extended beyond her personal contributions to include her role in developing other personnel. Williams's final argument attempted to frame the hearing in terms of fundamental military values rather than technical considerations. This hearing must decide whether military discipline will be maintained through proper procedures or abandoned in favor of individual initiative that undermines command authority. The characterization was designed to force a choice between traditional military values and technical innovation, suggesting that supporting Maya required abandoning institutional principles that maintained organizational effectiveness. Williams was essentially arguing that technical excellence was incompatible with military discipline. Maya's closing statement was brief but comprehensive, addressing both the technical merits of her work and her understanding of proper military procedures. I take full responsibility for violating modification protocols, but I also stand behind the technical quality of my work and its benefits for squadron operations. I request the opportunity to contribute my expertise through proper channels in the future. The statement demonstrated Maya's willingness to accept consequences for her procedural violations, while maintaining confidence in her technical contributions. Her approach balanced accountability with advocacy, acknowledging mistakes while emphasizing the value of her expertise. The hearing panel deliberated for 2 hours before announcing their decision. Major Chun delivered the verdict with obvious reluctance, reflecting the difficult balance between procedural enforcement and recognition of exceptional competence. Sergeant Rodriguez, this panel finds that your unauthorized modifications violated multiple regulations governing aircraft maintenance procedures. However, we also recognize the exceptional technical merit of your work and its positive impact on squadron operations. The split decision reflected the panel's struggle to balance competing priorities while establishing precedents for future cases. Maya would face formal reprimand for her procedural violations, but she would also receive official recognition for her technical contributions and assignment to advanced maintenance responsibilities. Effective immediately, Sergeant Rodriguez will be assigned to the squadron's technical analysis section, where her expertise can be utilized through proper channels, Chun announced, the decision representing a compromise that acknowledged Maya's value while maintaining procedural discipline. Williams's reaction to the decision was immediate and bitter. His authority had been fundamentally challenged, and the panel's compromise essentially validated Maya's position that technical expertise could override procedural requirements when it produced superior results. This decision sets a dangerous precedent that will undermine military discipline throughout the base, Williams stated, his objection reflecting genuine concern about institutional consequences rather than personal resentment. The hearing concluded with mixed outcomes that satisfied no one completely while addressing the competing concerns that had created the conflict. Maya had been officially reprimanded for her procedural violations, but she had also gained formal recognition for her technical expertise and assignment to responsibilities that matched her capabilities. As the participants filed out of conference room B, everyone understood that the hearing had resolved immediate questions about Maya's status while creating broader uncertainties about how military organizations would balance innovation with institutional requirements. The precedent established by Maya's case would influence similar situations throughout the Air Force, determining whether technical excellence could challenge traditional authority structures. The afternoon brought immediate implementation of the panel's decision, with Maya reporting to the technical analysis section where her expertise would be utilized through official channels. Her new assignment represented the opportunity she had been seeking for 2 years. But it also came with the understanding that her future contributions would be scrutinized carefully for compliance with proper procedures. The transformation of Maya's status from disciplinary problem to technical asset reflected the Air Force's evolving approach to personnel management in an era when expertise increasingly came from unexpected sources. Her case had demonstrated that traditional hierarchies needed modification to incorporate technical competence effectively, even when that competence challenged established authority structures. The evening brought celebrations and recriminations. As squadron personnel processed the implications of the hearing's outcome, Maya's supporters viewed the decision as validation of merit-based recognition, while her critics saw it as a dangerous precedent that could undermine military discipline. The division reflected broader cultural tensions within military aviation. As technology advancement required organizational adaptation, Maya's first week in the technical analysis section had been remarkably productive, with her expertise finally being utilized through proper channels to improve squadron operations. She had completed comprehensive diagnostics on 3 different aircraft, identified potential maintenance issues before they became critical problems, and developed new testing protocols that were being considered for adoption across the entire base. Her integration into official technical responsibilities had proceeded smoothly until the morning when everything changed. At 0545 hours on a Tuesday, that would reshape everyone's understanding of capability and crisis management. Captain Morrison and Lieutenant Ryan Foster launched from Nellis for what should have been a routine 2-hour training mission. Over the Nevada test range, their F-15s carried full fuel loads and advanced targeting systems for practicing air-to-air combat maneuvers in designated military airspace. Weather conditions were optimal, aircraft systems showed green across all indicators, and both pilots had extensive experience with the planned exercises. Maya was monitoring communications from the Technical Analysis Center when Morrison's voice crackled through the radio at 0630 hours, 45 minutes into what had been a flawless training mission. His tone carried the controlled tension that experienced pilots used to communicate serious problems without creating panic among ground personnel. Nellis Control, Lightning 1-1 experiencing engine failure in my right power plant. The engine fire warning light is illuminated, and I'm initiating emergency shutdown procedures. Lightning 1-2 is maintaining formation and providing visual assessment of the situation. Lieutenant Colonel Harper's voice immediately responded from the control tower, his command experience evident in the calm efficiency of his emergency response protocols. Lightning 1-1, Nellis Control copies engine failure and fire warning. State your position, altitude, and intentions. Emergency response teams are being activated. Foster's voice joined the communication loop, providing the external perspective that Morrison needed to assess the full scope of his emergency. Control, Lightning 1-2 has visuals on Lightning 1-1. I can see white smoke trailing from his right engine compartment, but no visible flames at this time. His aircraft appears stable under single-engine operation. Maya's training and experience immediately identified the critical factors that would determine Morrison's survival. F-15 Eagles were designed to fly on single-engine power, but their performance was severely degraded, especially with full fuel loads that increased weight and reduced maneuverability. Morrison's aircraft was 40 miles from Nellis, flying at 25,000 feet with enough fuel for normal operations, but potentially too much weight for safe single-engine landing procedures. The Technical Analysis Center erupted into controlled activity. As personnel accessed emergency checklists, weather data, and aircraft performance specifications that would guide Morrison's emergency approach and landing. Maya found herself at the center of crisis management activities, her expertise in F-15 systems, making her an essential resource for evaluating options and recommending procedures. Major Chung coordinated emergency response from the operations center, her voice steady as she managed multiple communication channels while monitoring Morrison's situation. Technical analysis. I need immediate assessment of single-engine landing procedures for F-15 with full fuel load. What are our options for reducing aircraft weight before approach? Maya's response was immediate and comprehensive, reflecting months of studying emergency procedures that most personnel hoped never to use. Ma'am, Captain Morrison has several options for reducing aircraft weight. He can jettison external fuel tanks if installed, perform fuel dumping procedures over designated areas, and consider jettisoning any external stores. However, fuel dumping will take significant time and may not be advisable depending on his engine condition. The recommendation demonstrated Maya's understanding of competing priorities in emergency situations. Reducing aircraft weight would improve single-engine performance, but fuel dumping procedures required time and specific atmospheric conditions that might not be available given Morrison's current situation and engine status. Morrison's voice returned to the radio with updates that complicated his emergency response options. Nellis Control, Lightning 1-1 reporting hydraulic pressure fluctuations in primary system. The backup hydraulic system appears normal, but I'm experiencing reduced control authority in pitch and roll axes. Single engine performance is within acceptable parameters, but aircraft handling is becoming increasingly difficult. The additional system failures transformed Morrison's emergency from manageable single-engine operation to complex, multiple system degradation that challenged even experienced test pilots. Hydraulic problems affected flight controls, landing gear operation, and brake effectiveness, all critical systems for safe landing procedures. Harper's response reflected his understanding of the escalating crisis. Lightning 1-to-1, copy hydraulic. Problems, technical analysis. I need immediate consultation on F-15 emergency landing procedures with both engine and hydraulic failures. What are Captain Morrison's best options for safe recovery? Maya stepped forward, her expertise in aircraft systems making her the most qualified person at Nellis to provide the technical guidance Morrison needed for survival. Her voice was calm and professional as she addressed the assembled emergency response team. Colonel Harper, Captain Morrison's situation requires careful prioritization of emergency procedures. Single-engine approach with degraded hydraulics is manageable, but he'll need extended final approach to ensure stability and proper landing configuration. I recommend an emergency approach to runway 21 with maximum support from emergency response teams. The recommendation reflected Maya's understanding of F-15 emergency procedures combined with her knowledge of Nellis, runway configurations, and emergency response capabilities. Runway 21 provided the longest approach path with optimal wind conditions, giving Morrison maximum opportunity to stabilize his aircraft for landing. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the base flight surgeon, joined the emergency response team to provide medical expertise in case Morrison's situation deteriorated further. Martinez had extensive experience with aviation emergencies and understood the physiological stress that pilots experienced during complex emergency procedures. Technical analysis. What's the timeline for Captain Morrison's approach? I need to know how long he'll be managing emergency procedures before landing, Martinez requested, her question reflecting concern about pilot fatigue and stress-induced decision-making errors. Maya consulted her calculations while monitoring Morrison's radio communications. Dr. Martinez, based on Captain Morrison's current position and single-engine performance, he'll need approximately 20 minutes to reach the final approach. That includes time for emergency checklist completion and aircraft configuration. The timeline provided essential information for emergency response planning, while highlighting the extended period during which Morrison would be managing multiple system failures under high-stress conditions. 20 minutes represented a significant opportunity for additional complications to develop. Foster's voice provided continuous updates on Morrison's aircraft condition, his external observations supplementing Morrison's instrument readings with visual assessment of damage and system performance. Control. Lightning 1-2 observing increased white smoke from Lightning 1-1's right engine compartment. No visible flames, but smoke density is increasing. Aircraft flight path appears stable. The visual reports from Foster were crucial for understanding Morrison's actual condition versus his instrument indications. Smoke density could indicate worsening engine damage that might affect other aircraft systems, while flight path stability suggested that Morrison was maintaining control despite his system failures. Maya coordinated with base meteorology to obtain real-time weather data that would affect Morrison's emergency approach procedures. Wind conditions, visibility, and atmospheric pressure all influenced single-engine landing performance and required precise calculations for optimal approach configuration. Meteorology reports winds from 240 degrees at 12 knots, visibility unlimited. Altimeter 30.15 inches, Maya announced to the emergency response team. Conditions are optimal for emergency approach, with crosswind components within acceptable limits for single-engine landing. The weather assessment provided essential planning information while confirming that environmental factors wouldn't complicate Morrison's already challenging emergency procedures. Optimal conditions reduced variables that emergency response teams needed to manage during the approach and landing phases. Lieutenant Colonel Davis from Base Operations joined the Emergency Response Coordination, bringing additional command authority and resource allocation capabilities to Morrison's crisis management. Davis had responsibility for coordinating multiple agencies and ensuring that all available support was properly utilized. Technical analysis. What additional support capability should be activated for Captain Morrison's emergency? Davis requested. Her question reflecting a systematic approach to crisis management that utilized all available resources effectively. Maya's response demonstrated her understanding of comprehensive emergency response procedures. Ma'am, recommend full emergency response activation, including crash rescue equipment, medical personnel, and aircraft recovery teams. Captain Morrison may experience landing gear problems due to hydraulic issues, requiring specialized recovery equipment. The recommendation reflected Maya's systematic thinking about potential complications that could develop during Morrison's emergency landing procedures. Hydraulic failures could affect multiple aircraft systems, requiring comprehensive response. Preparation rather than standard emergency protocols. Morrison's voice returned to the radio with updates that confirmed Maya's concerns about system degradation. Nellis Control, Lightning 1-to-1 reporting landing gear warning lights. Unable to confirm gear position due to hydraulic problems. Will attempt manual gear extension procedures during final approach. The landing gear uncertainty added another layer of complexity to Morrison's emergency procedures. Manual gear extension required specific timing and technique, while gear position uncertainty meant that emergency response teams needed to prepare for potential gear-up landing scenarios. Harper's decision-making reflected his understanding of the escalating emergency complexity. Lightning 1-to-1, copy gear problems. Emergency response teams are configured for all contingencies. Technical analysis will provide continuous support throughout your approach procedures. The commitment to continuous technical support meant that Maya would remain at the center of Morrison's emergency management, providing real-time analysis and recommendations as new complications developed. Her expertise was becoming essential. For successful crisis resolution, Maya coordinated with the base's senior mechanics to ensure that aircraft recovery equipment was properly positioned for Morrison's emergency landing. Her understanding of potential damage scenarios allowed her to recommend specific equipment placement that could minimize aircraft damage and improve pilot safety. Recovery teams should position foam application equipment near the approach end of runway 21, Maya recommended, her planning reflecting understanding of single-engine landing characteristics. Captain Morrison's approach will be steeper than normal, with a touchdown point farther up the runway than standard procedures. The positioning recommendations demonstrated Maya's comprehensive understanding of emergency landing dynamics and their implications for ground support operations. Her technical expertise was being utilized to optimize every aspect of Morrison's emergency response. Foster continued providing external assessment of Morrison's aircraft condition while maintaining formation position that allowed visual monitoring without interfering with emergency procedures. Control. Lightning 1-to-2 reports Lightning 1-to-1's right engine appears to be cooling. Smoke density is decreasing, but aircraft are showing signs of increased drag. Single-engine performance appears adequate for approach. The external observations provided reassurance that Morrison's engine situation was stabilizing while confirming that his aircraft performance remained within acceptable parameters for emergency landing procedures. Foster's professional assessment was crucial for understanding actual conditions versus instrument indications. Maya's analysis of Morrison's approaching emergency landing became increasingly detailed as his aircraft drew closer to Nellis. Her technical expertise allowed her to anticipate potential complications and prepare Response procedures that could mean the difference between successful recovery and catastrophic failure. Technical teams should be prepared for potential brake system failure during landing rollout. Maya announced, her warning based on understanding of hydraulic system interdependencies. Captain Morrison may require emergency arresting gear if normal braking proves inadequate. The comprehensive preparation reflected Maya's systematic approach to emergency management, considering multiple failure scenarios and ensuring that response capabilities matched potential requirements. Her technical knowledge was proving essential for successful crisis resolution. As Morrison's aircraft appeared on final approach, Maya understood that the next 10 minutes would test everything she had learned about aircraft systems, emergency procedures, and crisis management. Morrison's survival depended on the technical expertise and preparation that she had been developing throughout her military career, finally being utilized when it mattered most. Morrison's F-15 appeared as a distant speck against the Nevada sky at 0658 hours, trailing a thin line of white smoke that marked his damaged aircraft's approach to Nellis Air Force Base. Maya watched from the Emergency Coordination Center as radar operators tracked his descent, her expertise in single-engine approach procedures making her acutely aware of every decision Morrison would need to make in the next critical minutes. Lightning 1-1, Nellis Control, you are cleared for emergency approach, runway 21. Wind 240 at 12. Altimeter 30.15. Emergency equipment is in position and standing by. Harper's voice carried the calm authority of experienced command, but Maya could detect the underlying tension that accompanied any situation where pilot survival depended on perfect execution of emergency procedures. Morrison's response revealed the professional composure that had made him one of the squadron's most respected pilots. Nellis Control, Lightning 1-1 copies emergency clearance runway 21. Beginning emergency checklist procedures for single-engine approach with hydraulic degradation. Estimated touchdown in 12 minutes. Maya's calculations confirmed Morrison's timeline while highlighting the critical factors that would determine his survival. His aircraft was carrying significantly more fuel than optimal for single-engine landing. His hydraulic problems would affect control response and landing gear operation, and his approach would need to be executed with minimal margin for error. Technical analysis. I need continuous assessment of Captain Morrison's approach parameters, Major Chun requested, her coordination responsibilities requiring real-time evaluation of changing conditions. Alert me immediately if his configuration indicates problems that emergency response teams need to address. Maya's response demonstrated the comprehensive technical support she was providing throughout Morrison's emergency. Ma'am, Captain Morrison's approach angle and airspeed are within acceptable parameters for single-engine operation. However, his landing gear extension will be critical due to hydraulic problems. Manual gear extension procedures require precise timing and may affect aircraft stability. The assessment reflected Maya's understanding of 15 emergency procedures, combined with her knowledge of the specific system failures affecting Morrison's aircraft. Her expertise was enabling more effective emergency response coordination than would have been possible with standard technical support. Foster maintained his escort position alongside Morrison's damaged aircraft, providing continuous visual assessment that supplemented instrument readings with external observations. Control, Lightning 1-2 reports Lightning 1-1 is maintaining stable approach configuration. The right engine appears completely shut down with no visible smoke. Aircraft handling appears normal despite reported hydraulic problems. The external confirmation provided essential validation of Morrison's aircraft status while documenting conditions that emergency response teams needed to understand for effective preparation. Foster's professional observations were crucial for distinguishing between instrument indications and actual aircraft condition. Dr. Martinez monitored Morrison's physiological condition through voice analysis and communication patterns. Her medical Expertise allow an assessment of pilot stress levels and decision-making capability. Technical analysis. Captain Morrison's communication patterns indicate normal stress response for emergency situations. No indication of degraded cognitive function or decision-making capability. The medical assessment provided reassurance that Morrison remained capable of executing complex emergency procedures while alerting the response team to monitor for signs of stress-induced performance degradation. Maya incorporated this information into her ongoing evaluation of Morrison's approach progress. As Morrison's aircraft descended through 5,000 feet, Maya coordinated final preparations for emergency landing. Support. Her technical expertise allowed optimization of equipment, positioning and response procedures based on anticipated aircraft performance and potential complications. Crash rescue teams positioned for potential gear-up landing scenario, Maya announced. Her recommendation based on understanding of hydraulic system failures and their effects on landing gear operation. Captain Morrison may be unable to confirm gear position until final approach, requiring preparation for alternative landing configurations. The recommendation demonstrated Maya's systematic approach to emergency preparation, considering multiple failure scenarios and ensuring that response capabilities matched potential requirements. Her technical knowledge was proving essential for comprehensive crisis management. Morrison's voice returned to the radio as he initiated landing gear extension procedures, his tone maintaining professional composure despite the uncertainty surrounding his aircraft's condition. Nellis control, Lightning 1-1 attempting manual gear extension. Unable to confirm gear position through normal indicators due to hydraulic failure. The gear extension attempt represented one of the most critical phases of Morrison's emergency approach. Manual extension procedures required specific technique and timing, while gear position uncertainty meant that his first indication of success or failure might come only during touchdown. Maya's expertise in F-15 systems allowed her to provide real-time guidance for Morrison's gear extension procedures. Lightning 1-1 manual gear extension requires approximately 90 seconds for completion. Maintain current approach speed until gear position is confirmed. Emergency teams are prepared for all landing configurations. The technical guidance demonstrated Maya's comprehensive understanding of emergency procedures and her ability to provide actionable information under high-stress conditions. Her expertise was enabling more effective emergency management than standard technical support could provide. Foster's external observations became crucial as Morrison attempted gear extension without reliable position indicators. Control, Lightning 1-2 has visuals on Lightning 1-1's gear extension. The main landing gear appears to be extending normally. Nose gear extension is confirmed. All three gears appear down and locked. The confirmation of successful gear extension provided immense relief for the entire emergency response team while validating Morrison's execution of manual extension procedures. Maya's preparation and guidance had contributed to successful completion of critical emergency checklist items. Lieutenant Colonel Davis coordinated final emergency response positioning as Morrison approached the critical final approach phase. All emergency teams confirm ready status. Medical personnel standing by. Crash rescue equipment in position. Aircraft recovery teams prepared for immediate response. The comprehensive emergency preparation reflected systematic crisis management that utilized Maya's technical expertise to optimize response effectiveness. Her knowledge of aircraft systems and emergency procedures had enabled superior preparation for Morrison's complex emergency landing. Morrison's aircraft crossed the final approach threshold at precisely the airspeed and configuration that Maya had calculated for optimal single-engine landing performance. His professional execution of emergency procedures demonstrated the high level of pilot competence that characterized elite military aviation, while Maya's technical support had optimized every aspect of his approach preparation. Lightning 1-to-1 on final approach. Gear down and locked. Emergency checklist complete. Morrison announced, his voice carrying the focused concentration that accompanied the most demanding phases of emergency procedures. Touchdown estimated in 90 seconds. Maya monitored Morrison's approach parameters while coordinating final emergency response preparations. Her technical expertise allowed real-time assessment of approach stability and early identification of potential complications that could develop during the final approach phase. Approach parameters within optimal range for single-engine landing, Maya announced to the emergency coordination team. Captain Morrison's airspeed and descent rate indicate stable approach configuration. Touchdown should occur approximately 1,500 feet down the runway with normal rollout distance. The technical assessment provided essential information for emergency response positioning while confirming that Morrison's approach execution was proceeding according to optimal procedures. Maya's expertise was enabling more precise emergency coordination than standard technical support could provide. As Morrison's F-15 descended through 100 feet above the runway threshold, Maya experienced a moment of professional satisfaction that transcended personal vindication. Her technical expertise was being utilized to save a pilot's life while demonstrating the value of comprehensive aircraft systems knowledge regardless of traditional role boundaries. Morrison's touchdown was smooth and precise, his aircraft settling onto runway 21 with textbook execution of single-engine landing procedures. The landing rollout proceeded normally until Morrison discovered that his hydraulic problems had affected his brake system effectiveness, requiring longer stopping distance than normal procedures anticipated. Emergency response teams, Lightning 1-to-1 experiencing extended rollout due to brake degradation. Maya announced her anticipation of brake problems allowing immediate coordination of response procedures. Captain Morrison will require emergency arresting gear if normal braking proves inadequate. The prediction of brake problems demonstrated Maya's comprehensive understanding of hydraulic system interdependencies and their effects on multiple aircraft functions. Her technical expertise had enabled preparation for complications that might have surprised less knowledgeable emergency response teams. Morrison's aircraft rolled to a complete stop 3,000 feet down the 10,000-foot runway, well within safety margins, but requiring emergency response team assistance for safe shutdown procedures. His successful emergency landing validated both his professional competence and the technical support Maya had provided throughout the crisis. Nellis Control, Lightning 1-to-1, safely on deck. Emergency systems operational, pilot uninjured, requesting normal shutdown assistance, Morrison announced, his relief evident despite his professional composure. The successful conclusion of his emergency represented triumph over mechanical failure through superior preparation and execution. Emergency response teams surrounded Morrison's aircraft within minutes, providing assistance for safe shutdown procedures, while conducting preliminary assessment of damage and system failures. Maya coordinated technical analysis activities that would determine the cause of Morrison's emergency and prevent similar failures in other aircraft. Morrison's first action after shutdown was to request immediate consultation with Maya regarding the technical analysis of his aircraft's failures. His recognition of her expertise during the emergency had convinced him that she possessed the technical knowledge necessary for comprehensive failure analysis. "I want Sergeant Rodriguez to lead the technical investigation of my aircraft's failures," Morrison announced to Lieutenant Colonel Harper. Her expertise during the emergency response was exceptional, and her systems knowledge exceeds anyone else's on this base. The public recognition from Morrison carried special weight because it came immediately after a life-threatening emergency where Maya's expertise had contributed directly to his survival. Morrison's endorsement couldn't be dismissed as political correctness or routine appreciation for support personnel. Harper's response reflected his evolving understanding of Maya's capabilities and their value for squadron operations. Sergeant Rodriguez, you'll lead the technical investigation team. Your analysis of Captain Morrison's emergency and the factors that contributed to his successful recovery will be documented for future training purposes. The assignment represented complete professional vindication for Maya's technical expertise while demonstrating institutional recognition of her capabilities. Her knowledge was being officially acknowledged and utilized at the highest levels of squadron technical operations. Dr. Barnes, monitoring the emergency remotely through base communication systems, provided immediate professional assessment of Maya's performance during Morrison's crisis. Sergeant Rodriguez's technical coordination during Captain Morrison's emergency was exceptional by any standard. Her expertise enabled more effective emergency response than I've seen in 30 years of aerospace experience. The professional endorsement from Barnes carried special authority because of her reputation as the leading civilian expert on F-15 systems. Her assessment eliminated any question about Maya's technical competence while highlighting the value of her contributions during actual emergency operations. Chun approached Maya as emergency response activities concluded, her expression reflecting genuine appreciation for Maya's performance during the crisis. Sergeant Rodriguez, your technical expertise was essential for Captain Morrison's successful emergency recovery. Your coordination and analysis capabilities exceeded our normal technical support by significant margins. The recognition from Chun represented institutional acknowledgement of Maya's superior capabilities, while validating her transition from disciplinary problem to essential technical resource. Her expertise was being recognized at command levels that controlled assignment and advancement opportunities. Tech Sergeant Williams, observing Maya's central role in Morrison's emergency response, began to understand that his resistance to her technical expertise had been counterproductive for squadron effectiveness. His approach to Maya reflected grudging acceptance of her capabilities, while acknowledging the institutional changes her success was creating. Rodriguez, your work during Morrison's emergency was impressive, Williams admitted, his tone reflecting professional respect rather than personal enthusiasm. Your technical knowledge proved valuable when it counted most. The acknowledgement from Williams marked a fundamental shift in their professional relationship while demonstrating that Maya's expertise was gaining recognition even from personnel who had previously resisted her contributions. Her technical vindication was becoming comprehensive and undeniable. As Morrison walked across the tarmac after his successful emergency landing, he stopped to thank Maya personally for her technical support during his crisis. Sergeant Rodriguez, your expertise helped save my life today. Your technical coordination was flawless, and your systems knowledge enabled better emergency response than I could have hoped for. The personal gratitude from Morrison provided emotional validation that transcended professional recognition while confirming that Maya's expertise had practical value in life-threatening situations. Her technical contributions had made a measurable difference in outcome that everyone could understand and appreciate. The afternoon debriefing session included comprehensive review of Morrison's emergency procedures and the technical support that had contributed to his successful recovery. Maya's role in coordinating emergency response was documented for training purposes, while establishing new standards for technical support during crisis situations. Sergeant Rodriguez's performance during today's emergency establishes new benchmarks for technical coordination and systems expertise, Harper announced during the debriefing. Her capabilities will be incorporated into our standard emergency response procedures and utilized for training other technical personnel. The institutional recognition represented a complete transformation of Maya's status from marginalized ground crew to essential technical resource whose expertise was actively sought and officially valued. Her vindication was becoming systematic and permanent rather than temporary acknowledgement of Emergency performance. As the day concluded with Morrison's aircraft secured and emergency response teams demobilized, Maya reflected on the complete reversal of her professional situation. Her technical expertise was finally being recognized and utilized effectively, while her contributions were being valued at the highest levels of squadron operations. The crisis that could have ended Morrison's career had instead become the catalyst for transforming Maya's role within the organization. 6 months after Morrison's emergency landing, Maya Rodriguez stood in the cockpit of an F-15D Eagle for her first official training flight as a newly commissioned officer and pilot candidate. The aircraft that had once been beyond her reach was now responding to her commands, its sophisticated systems operating under her direct control rather than her technical analysis from the ground. The transformation from ground crew technician to pilot trainee represented a complete reversal of institutional assumptions about capability, merit, and the sources of aviation expertise. Lieutenant Colonel Harper, now serving as Maya's primary flight instructor, occupied the rear seat of the F-15D as she completed her pre-flight checklist with the methodical precision that had characterized all her technical work. Rodriguez, your systems knowledge gives you advantages that most pilot candidates don't develop until they've accumulated hundreds of flight hours. Your understanding of aircraft performance characteristics is exceptional. Maya's transition to pilot training had begun 3 weeks after Morrison's emergency, when Colonel Patricia Williams, the new base commander, had reviewed Maya's personnel file and recommended her for immediate officer candidate school and pilot training. Williams recognized that Maya's technical expertise, combined with her demonstrated leadership during crisis situations, made her exactly the kind of officer that modern military aviation required. Ma'am, my maintenance experience has taught me to understand aircraft systems from the inside out, Maya replied, her voice steady as she initiated engine start procedures. Every system on this aircraft has specific performance characteristics and limitations that affect flight operations. Understanding those relationships makes me a better pilot. The pre-flight inspection had revealed Maya's comprehensive knowledge of F-15 systems, as she identified potential maintenance issues that had escaped the attention of regular ground crews. Her technical background allowed her to evaluate aircraft conditions with precision that exceeded standard pilot training, ensuring optimal performance and safety margins. Captain Morrison, now serving as Squadron Operations Officer, had become one of Maya's strongest advocates within the pilot community. His public endorsement of her technical capabilities had opened doors that traditional career progression might never have provided, while his personal gratitude had created mentorship opportunities that accelerated her professional development. Rodriguez's technical knowledge saved my life, but her leadership during that emergency demonstrated pilot-level decision-making under pressure, Morrison had written in his recommendation letter for Maya's officer candidacy. She possesses the rare combination of technical expertise and operational judgment that makes superior military aviators. The takeoff from Nellis proceeded smoothly as Maya demonstrated aircraft handling skills that reflected her extensive simulator training combined with her practical understanding of F-15 performance characteristics. Her control inputs were precise and confident, suggesting natural aptitude enhanced by comprehensive systems knowledge. Excellent control technique, Rodriguez, Harper observed through the intercom. Your understanding of engine response and aerodynamic characteristics is allowing you to optimize aircraft performance instinctively. Most pilot candidates require months to develop that level of systems integration. Maya's flight training was proceeding under an accelerated schedule that reflected both her exceptional preparation and the Air Force's recognition that her expertise deserved rapid development. Her technical background had eliminated many of the learning curve challenges that typically extended pilot training timelines, allowing focus on advanced procedures and tactical applications. The morning's training mission included basic flight maneuvers, emergency procedures practice, and Introduction to Air-to-Air Combat Fundamentals. Maya's performance exceeded instructor expectations in every category, demonstrating that her theoretical knowledge translated effectively into practical flying skills under actual flight conditions. "Let's practice some emergency procedures," Harper announced, initiating simulated engine failure scenarios that tested Maya's ability to apply her technical knowledge under stress. "Rodriguez, you're experiencing right engine failure at 15,000 feet. Execute appropriate emergency procedures." Maya's response was immediate and flawless, her technical understanding of single-engine procedures allowing her to configure the aircraft optimally while maintaining situational awareness and communication protocols. Her execution demonstrated the benefits of comprehensive systems knowledge during actual flight operations. "Outstanding emergency response, Rodriguez," Harper confirmed. "Your technical background is allowing you to understand the why behind emergency procedures rather than simply memorizing checklist items. That understanding makes you more effective when conditions don't match standard scenarios." The training flight concluded with practice approaches and landings that showcased Maya's precision and aircraft control. Her technical knowledge of approach procedures and aircraft performance allowed her to execute challenging maneuvers with accuracy that impressed even experienced instructor pilots. After landing, Maya's debriefing session included comprehensive evaluation of her flight performance and progress assessment for advancement to more complex training phases. Her technical competence was accelerating normal training timelines while establishing new standards for pilot candidate evaluation. "Rodriguez, your technical background is providing advantages that we need to incorporate into standard pilot training procedures," Harper explained during the debrief. "Your understanding of aircraft systems is enabling more effective learning progression than traditional training methods typically achieve." The recognition represented institutional acknowledgement that Maya's technical expertise offered benefits that extended beyond her individual advancement to improvements in training effectiveness for all pilot candidates. Her success was creating precedents that would influence future training policies. Major Chun, recently promoted to squadron commander following Harper's reassignment to group headquarters, had implemented comprehensive changes to technical support procedures based on Maya's innovations during Morrison's emergency. The squadron's emergency response capabilities had improved dramatically through adoption of Maya's systematic approach to crisis management. "Sergeant Walsh, I want you to work closely with Lieutenant Rodriguez to document the technical coordination procedures she developed during Captain Morrison's emergency," Chun directed, her assignment reflecting institutional commitment to preserving and spreading Maya's technical innovations. Walsh, now serving as Senior Enlisted Advisor for Technical Operations, had benefited directly from Maya's mentorship and technical guidance. Her own capabilities had improved significantly through Maya's informal training, demonstrating the multiplier effects of technical expertise when it was shared effectively. "Ma'am, Lieutenant Rodriguez's approach to emergency coordination has revolutionized our response capabilities," Walsh reported. "Her systematic analysis methods and comprehensive preparation procedures are being adopted by emergency response teams throughout the base." The institutional recognition of Maya's contributions extended beyond individual appreciation to systematic adoption of her technical innovations. Her expertise was being incorporated into official procedures that would benefit future emergency operations and pilot safety. Dr. Barnes had accepted a consulting position with Nellis Air Force Base specifically to work with Maya on developing advanced diagnostic procedures for F-15 systems. Their collaboration represented the kind of civilian-military technical partnership that enhanced operational effectiveness through shared expertise. "Maya's understanding of aircraft systems approaches my own level after 30 years in aerospace engineering," Barnes explained to visiting officials from Air Force headquarters. Her innovations in diagnostic procedures and emergency coordination represent breakthrough advances in technical support capabilities. The professional endorsement from Barnes carried special weight because of her reputation as the leading civilian expert on F-15 systems. Her collaboration with Maya was attracting attention from senior Air Force leadership, who recognized the value of innovative technical approaches. Lieutenant Foster, Morrison's former wingman, had requested an assignment as Maya's flight training partner for advanced tactical exercises. His recognition of her technical competence had evolved into genuine respect for her emerging pilot skills and leadership capabilities. Flying with Rodriguez is like having a technical expert and tactical partner combined in one person, Foster observed during a training debrief. Her systems knowledge allows her to optimize aircraft performance in ways that give us tactical advantages during combat exercises. The partnership between Maya and Foster represented the kind of professional relationship that characterized elite military aviation, where technical competence and operational effectiveness combined to create superior mission capabilities. Maya's integration into the pilot community was proceeding smoothly based on demonstrated competence rather than traditional career progression. Colonel Williams had initiated a comprehensive review of personnel utilization policies based on Maya's case, recognizing that traditional hierarchies might be preventing optimal use of available expertise. Her study was attracting attention from senior Air Force leadership who were interested in improving organizational effectiveness. Sergeant Rodriguez's case demonstrates that exceptional technical competence can emerge from unexpected sources. Williams explained in her presentation to Air Force headquarters, "Our personnel policies need modification to identify and utilize expertise more effectively regardless of traditional career boundaries." The institutional analysis represented broader recognition that Maya's success reflected systematic issues rather than individual circumstances. Her case was creating opportunities for organizational improvement that could benefit personnel throughout the Air Force. Maya's officer commissioning ceremony took place 3 months after her pilot training began, with Morrison serving as her commissioning officer and Harper providing the oath of office. The ceremony marked her complete transformation from marginalized ground crew to respected officer and pilot candidate. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, your journey from ground crew to pilot represents the best traditions of military service," Morrison announced during the ceremony. "Your technical expertise and professional dedication have set new standards for excellence that inspire everyone who serves with you." The recognition from Morrison carried special significance because of their shared experience during his emergency, when Maya's expertise had proven essential for his survival. His role in her commissioning represented professional acknowledgement that transcended rank and position. Maya's first assignment as a commissioned officer was to the squadron's technical development section, where her expertise would be utilized to improve maintenance procedures and emergency response capabilities. Her position represented the perfect integration of her technical background with her emerging leadership responsibilities. "Lieutenant Rodriguez will lead our technical innovation initiatives while continuing her pilot training," Chun announced. Her unique combination of systems expertise and operational experience makes her ideally qualified for advancing our technical capabilities. The assignment reflected institutional recognition that Maya's value extended beyond individual pilot training to systematic improvement of squadron operations. Her expertise was being positioned to benefit the entire organization rather than simply advancing her personal career. Tech Sergeant Williams, observing Maya's transformation from disciplinary problem to commissioned officer, had begun to understand that his resistance to change had been counterproductive for organizational effectiveness. His relationship with Maya had evolved into professional respect based on her demonstrated competence. "Lieutenant Rodriguez's success has taught me that technical expertise deserves recognition regardless of its source," Williams admitted during a maintenance supervisors meeting. Her innovations have improved our operations significantly, and I should have recognized her capabilities earlier. The acknowledgement from Williams represented institutional learning about the importance of recognizing and utilizing expertise effectively. Maya's success was creating cultural changes that would benefit future personnel who possessed exceptional capabilities. Airman Walsh, promoted to Staff Sergeant, based partly on technical skills she had learned from Maya, had become the squadron's senior technical trainer responsible for developing maintenance personnel. Her advancement demonstrated the multiplier effects of Maya's technical expertise and mentorship. Lieutenant Rodriguez's technical training has prepared me for responsibilities I never thought possible, Walsh explained during her promotion ceremony. Her mentorship demonstrated that technical excellence creates opportunities for professional advancement, regardless of traditional limitations. The success of Maya's informal mentoring activities had led to formal recognition of her training capabilities and assignment of official responsibilities for developing technical personnel. Her expertise was being leveraged to improve organizational capabilities systematically. Dr. Martinez, observing Maya's successful transition from ground crew to pilot, had documented her case as an example of optimal personnel development that maximized individual potential while serving organizational needs. Her analysis was being used to develop improved personnel assessment procedures. Lieutenant Rodriguez's case demonstrates that comprehensive technical knowledge enhances pilot training effectiveness, Martinez explained in her research presentation. Her background provided advantages that accelerated learning progression, while improving overall performance quality. The medical analysis of Maya's success was contributing to improved understanding of optimal pilot selection and training procedures. Her case was creating knowledge that would benefit future pilot candidates and improve training effectiveness. As Maya's first year as a commissioned officer concluded with her graduation from advanced pilot training and assignment to operational flying status, she reflected on the complete transformation of her professional situation. The laughter and mockery that had once accompanied her presence in pilot briefings had been replaced by genuine respect and appreciation for her technical expertise and flying capabilities. The squadron that once excluded me from meaningful technical work now depends on my expertise for improving operational effectiveness, Maya observed during her graduation interview. My technical knowledge has proven valuable in ways that traditional career progression might never have discovered. Her success had demonstrated that technical competence could overcome institutional barriers when it was given opportunities for demonstration. Maya's expertise had proven essential for pilot safety, emergency response effectiveness, and operational innovation that benefited everyone involved. The evening celebration of Maya's graduation included recognition from personnel throughout Nellis Air Force Base, who had witnessed her transformation from marginalized ground crew to essential technical leader and accomplished pilot. Her success represented triumph of merit over prejudice, while demonstrating the value of technical expertise in modern military aviation. Captain Morrison, reflecting on the crisis that had revealed Maya's true capabilities, understood that emergency situations often provided opportunities for exceptional individuals to demonstrate their worth. Maya's expertise saved my life and transformed our understanding of technical competence. Her success proves that capability exists in unexpected places when organizations are willing to recognize and develop it. As Maya prepared for her first operational assignment as a pilot and technical specialist, she carried with her the knowledge that expertise and determination could overcome any institutional obstacle. Her journey from ridiculed ground crew to respected pilot had proven that technical excellence, when combined with professional persistence, could transform both individual careers and organizational effectiveness. The F-15, that had once represented an impossible dream, was now her operational aircraft, responding to her commands as she led training missions and technical development initiatives. Maya Rodriguez had not only achieved her personal goals, She had redefined what was possible for technical personnel in modern military aviation, creating opportunities for future generations who possessed exceptional capabilities but faced traditional limitations. Her story had become legend at Nellis Air Force Base, inspiring technical personnel to pursue advanced training while encouraging commanders to recognize expertise regardless of its source. The woman they had once mocked, for her ambitions had become the standard by which technical excellence and professional determination were measured throughout the organization. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.